What's happening in the canine industry? For all the latest news, views, and expert opinions, stay right here for the Canine Paradigm. You'll hear from industry leaders, experts, doyens of the industry, learned colleagues, movers and shakers, and the odd randy guest. Get the latest insights and expert advice from both here and abroad from the people in the know. Now, here are your hosts, Glenn Cook and Pat Stewart. And I'm Lofty Fulton, and I'm out of here.
Glenda?
Yes.
We have to do a new ad.
We do.
It's a solemn time. Our long-time sponsor of the show, George Kittredge,
Yes.
very, very sadly passed away. And we formerly used to advertise for him his Rowdy Hound boxes.
We did.
So we don't actually know what's happened with Rowdy Hound boxes. You know anything about that?
I looked at the website. It said that they're recalibrating since their founder and boss has passed. But nonetheless, I think that you and I want to honour the memory of George Kittredge anyway. He was a friend to both of us, a hell of a good guy, and he supported us almost immediately. He was on board through and through, and I just don't want any of us to forget George. He was a terrific human being.
So we intend to continue to advertise Rowdy Hound, even though we don't know what's going on with them.
Yep.
In the hopes that they keep going, and that can be a bit of George's legacy that we're able to continue to promote.
I hope so.
In checking it out, we had a look to see, because we're not real good with the sponsorship. So we had a look to see who's actually paying for sponsorship. And we have a list of people to tell you that we support. And the first is our sugar mama, Barbara de Groot.
She's been with us from the start as well. Barbara's been an absolute staple in our...
She's a gem.
She is a gem.
She has a business.
She does. From the Heart Dog Training.
From the Heart Dog Training.
Yep.
You can check it out. But she supports us as much and more than anybody ever has. So we appreciate you very much, Barbara. Another person who's supported us from the start.
The Einzelwiener.
Einzelwiener.
The Bullfed.
The Bullfed.
Yep.
It's where I get all my stuff.
Yeah.
It is, truly. It's where I get all my dog gear. If I need something, Jason's my first point of call. I don't use his shit website. He has a website. It's dog shit. I just message him directly. You guys probably should use his shit website, but I don't.
Yeah, because you don't want to message him directly and get his grumpy ire of the day.
Yeah, but do it. Get all your dog stuff from Jason. He's got everything you need. He's got all the shit that you need to train a dog for realty.
Everybody who comes to seminars and looks at meals and asks me meals questions, ask Jason.
Yeah.
Jason can point you in the right direction for getting the meal that's best suited for you.
I really like his leashes. I'm a big fan of his leash pack. That's why I sort of convinced him to do it. But anyway, get your stuff from Einzelwiener.
Yep.
Do you know who has a fantastic website and ships internationally?
My wife?
Your wife,
Yeah.
Canine Pharmaceuticals.
I couldn't imagine her not having a good website, how much of a perfectionist she is.
Well, the products are amazing. My dog merely being alive is a walking testimonial to that. My dog, who I've retired numerous times and has come out of retirement when I've managed to get his body back to healthy. And a big part of that is related to Canine Pharmaceuticals. So check it out, everybody.
I could say so many nice and biased things about Canine Pharmaceuticals and my wife, but what I will say is ignore me. Just look at testimonials. The testimonials speak for themselves. That's where the field trials are working. What makes Narelle's day, and mine as well, is when people are emailing in and sending messages of, well, primarily people have had no hope in the past because just everything that they were trying wasn't working, and now it is. And that is the testament that something is actually really working. And the other thing which I will add, one of the things that Narelle's told me in the past is dogs are incapable of understanding the placebo effect.
Oh, that's a good point.
So you can fake it on a human, but you can't fake it on a dog.
I never thought about that before. That's actually a really good point.
Well, my wife's actually a very smart person.
There you go.
So she's told me that humans are subject to the placebo effect where dogs are not. So it either works or it doesn't on dogs.
There you go. That makes total sense.
Yep.
There's one other person who puts a fair amount of work into this show.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah. Funny about that.
And I have a digital product that you can buy. If you go to my website, seriousdogbusiness.com, right now I've got 2 courses available to you. The Overview, which is a small course where you could learn how I teach.
Yep.
But the other one is the Wave Tops, which is a bigger course. It's everything I know about dog training. Well, it's not everything. It's a lot of what I know about dog training.
Yeah,
Check it
terrific.
out.
Yeah.
$500 dues. That's all it's going to cost you.
I recommend it when people are saying, what do I do? How do I get in the industry? I recommend them to your course.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks,
Yeah.
sir. All right, on with the show. Welcome back to the Canine Paradigm. I'm your host, Pat Stewart. I'm joined in studio today by my co-host, Glenn Cook.
I don't know whether I should rev you up and start talking about UFOs at the start of the show.
Well, I've just been yelling about it for an hour in
We
your
have
kitchen.
literally spoken for an entire hour. We've got dogs to train. Well, you've got dogs to train at the end of this, and that's usually the standard that we've got a time print of time to go.
Yeah.
We've spent an hour talking about all these crazy sightings of UFOs, but we're not going to make the whole show on that. Because,
Not the whole show, but the first bit.
Okay, let's go.
It's fucking UFOs everywhere. I don't know what it is. I have my own theories. I almost want to make those public so that I can be like, yes, I was right, if it turns out that I was right. Otherwise, people will be like, you weren't right. I've told quite a few people what I think it is. And so I'm on record. My wife will be able to be like, yes, Pat, yes. So I know that you said that this is what was happening when it happens.
Secretly, I've been gloating in the background more than you because you were the disbeliever in the start and I was the one telling you about
I'm
UFO
so bought
theories.
in. I'm so bought in. I am 100% bought in.
Yep. How can you not be though? Like there's too much shit going on.
Mate,
Too much weird shit.
the weird thing for us in Australia anyway is nobody seems to want to talk about this. And what could be more important than the fact that there are drones that are clearly, like human-made normal drones zooming all around the United States, and the US government is just like, yeah, don't worry about it. Don't look at that. It's none of your business. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's none of your business. Like that's the messaging that has been out. And so that to me would be like, hey, I'm curious.
Thank God for Elon Musk. Thank God that he is one of these people who is now basically saying, no, I'm going to start telling you the truth. And I'm going to start letting you talk about things without being silenced and without being shouted down.
Yeah. I think,
what a fucked up world we lived in. There was a good period, probably about a 4-year period, 5-year period, where people became afraid to be human.
Yeah.
It feels nice that we're sort of coming out the end of that bubble at the moment. People have said to me, yeah, but now with this free speech, people are going to start being cruel to people. People have always been cruel to people.
Yeah, that's right.
Like if you read the comments that people wrote on social media all the time, they've never not been cruel to people.
Yeah.
They've always said it. It was just suppressed to say it out loud.
Yeah.
And they always thought it. I mean, you see all these companies now ditching DEI. They're basically jumping straight off the bandwagon saying, we don't want to do it.
Yeah, we never believed in it.
Yeah, we didn't believe in it.
We're buying political favors by doing it.
Yeah, we had pressure to do it and now we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want this to sound like you and I just suddenly want people to be bullied and picked on and people being mistreated and going back to the dark ages where people in the gay community were targeted and shit like that. That's not fair and that's not reasonable. I don't want any of that shit. But there are some fucking scumbags out there who got away with murder as well. Like literally got away with murder because they fucking hide under that cloak.
Yeah.
And now it's coming out to haunt them. Now all these people who are fucking rapists and fucking Satanists and shit people that have done horrible, malevolent things at such a wild level, now it's coming to light. Like that fucking rock's been lifted up of these people and they're getting exposed for it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why all this shit is happening because it's like a fucking massive cleansing that's about to take place.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we should be careful how much we say we're a dog training podcast, but I think...
Are we?
well, we're conspiracy theorists now.
We're a dog training lifestyle podcast.
Yeah. But I think what's happening in the US is super interesting and very important. And I think that it's building towards something. I think that for a lot of our listeners are in the US, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but I can speak for myself. And US foreign policy is very, very, very important to the rest of the world. Like what happens,
especially in Australia.
Yeah. So what happens with your internal stuff, you have your own opinions on that, whatever, right? And that's your problem. That's your election to have. But the US foreign policy, we're on the brink of nuclear war and it's becoming very clear. And I don't know if it's clear to people necessarily within the US, but it's becoming very clear outside of the US that there's a lot of antagonization of that. And Australia has to I don't know if too many people fully understand, but we're kind of legally obligated to follow the US into war.
Well,
right?
we're part of AUKUS.
Yeah,
we're part of AUKUS, which is the United Kingdom.
There's more than that. Within the Five Eyes, we are obligated. Whenever the US decide, okay, we're going to war here, we have to go, right? And that sort of takes a toll on Australia in that I'm sure I can talk about this. I'm not saying things I can't, but Task Force 66 that I was a part of in Afghanistan required that we have commando company as well as an SAS troop on the ground in Afghanistan at all times ready to rock. But there are only 4 commando companies, right? So this isn't like the US Army where you've got 60,000 people that they consider special forces. That's bigger than our army. So when we commit like, at a time, 100 gunfighters, like SF level capable gunfighters, there are only a few hundred of us. So to commit that was beyond fucking, that the commitment from Australia to do that is astronomical, and we're involved in that. Now, like, there's a lot to it. Again, it's probably not appropriate for this podcast and this level of conversation, but we have been a part of all of that. And people like me, now when we look at what's happening around the world and the truths that is coming out of that, you sort of have to look at that. And people like me and all of my peers that I was in the army with have had the conversation of like, oh, fuck, we were the stormtroopers. If this was Star Wars, we were the Empire. We were not, we were not the rebels. And for me especially, I have to look at it and go, I wasn't just one of those stormtroopers in white. I was one of those motherfuckers that wear the black gear and hangs out directly with Darth Vader. So like, there's a level of complicity in that I have to deal with now. And so that's why when this drone shit is going on and it's just like, no, don't worry about it. It's not your business. It's like, no, it is our business. And it's our business here in Australia as well, because whatever the fuck is going on is important to us also. Anyway, that's my position on it.
I think it's eternally disappointing to most people that you left out of the headline with what's going on in the world. I posted a meme the other day that said scientists are concerned that we're going to run out of conspiracy theories in 2025 or something like that because they're all coming true. Words to that effect. For a long time, things that people have been talking about, you've been considered a crackpot if you even mention it.
Yeah.
Like if you talk about these sort of things, it's like, oh, no, you can't talk about vaccines. You can't talk about UFOs. You can't talk about spiritualism or whatever. You're a hippie, you're a loser, you're a fucking drug addict if you talk about any of these things. Now suddenly it's like, oh, now we can talk about these things because the government have cleared it.
Yeah.
You're allowed to now because the people that you elected to serve you have now said that you can talk about it.
Yeah.
These things are fucking crazy. Could you imagine being a hippie that had like a pocket full of pot and you spent like 20 to life in jail for smoking joints, and now everybody around you is allowed to smoke joints because the government said, oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
We're allowed to do it now. And
well, especially when you understand the history of how that became illegal, right? Like it was to continue the use of paper, not hemp. That's why weed was demonized the way that it was.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It was because hemp,
I thought it had something to do with Nixon.
It's before him, I think, but it's because they wanted to make sure that hemp never became like a mainstream viable product.
It's such a viable product with so many.
Yeah, and if you're invested in the manufacturer of paper products, you don't want hemp becoming a mainstream thing.
Isn't that fucking wild?
Yeah.
If it's true.
It's true.
Wow.
That's true. Anyway.
There is some dog training side of this because unfortunately we've left the run of it a little bit late. However, Marcia Davies did post it in the Canine Paradigm discussion group about now Tasmania.
So for those who don't know, Tasmania is the tiny little island hanging off the bottom right-hand corner of Australia.
That we've always disputed whether it's part of Australia or if it's its own island. But it is. It's part of Australia.
They're us.
Yeah, they're us. I've actually got family in Tasmania, so I should be careful. But we've always joked that that's where the inbreeders come from as well. But
it's an island. Like that's the joke of Tasmania. It's an island. It's close population. But so is Australia. It's just much bigger.
They say when you're born in Tasmania, you've got to check your shoulder for a scar.
That's for your second head.
For your second head, yeah. Okay. However, our Tasmanian family, the people of Tasmania, are now under scrutiny from another one of these government inquiries where it's that woke society of dog training where they basically want to eliminate balanced training.
Yeah.
And submissions are closing tomorrow, which unfortunately is going to be too late by the time this podcast comes out.
Yeah. But it's been posted in our discussion group.
It has been posted.
The call has been put out.
As we've said before, you've got to question the motives of these people. Like, why do they want these things taken away? We've certainly explored the ethical side of things or the suggested ethical side of things. But as we've now seen that when lazy science is moved aside and when people are doing research like Ivan did with that group of people, suddenly the results are changed and suddenly people are looking at it in a brand new light. And then you get old mate with his YouTube channel. Oh, but the dogs are making some squealing noises. Well, fuck you, mate. Plenty of dogs who probably make squealing noises when the very people who are tasked to rescue these dogs are also the major ones putting them down as well. So fuck you and fuck lazy governments for being put in a position where they're so easily bought that they can't bring intelligent people into this conversation. Yes, they put it out for submission. They always put it out for submission. But there's something behind this with governments making these moves. And you got to dig down on this and you really got to find out who are the people that are putting this to task and why are they taking these tools away?
Yeah.
I saw something on social media the other day where science is now saying that dogs that wear harnesses and collars are more likely to pull. I loved one of the comments where it says, why haven't you asked a dog trainer? We've known this for the last 50, 60 years. That's exactly the fucking point that we're trying to say. We're the people in the field. We're the people who are doing the real research science because we're the ones actually seeing the transformation of these dogs. Pet dogs, sport dogs, military dogs, police dogs, whatever they may be. We're the ones that are out there on the field. The police handlers see it. Army handlers see it. The sporting dog people see it. Pet dog people see it. We all see it. And when you see these transformational aspects taking place, everybody gets to be a passenger or even on the driver's seat of seeing that miraculous transformation happen. And yet this cruelty thing keeps coming up all the time. You think that's going to fucking stop? You think they would take the tools away and cruelty is going to stop to dogs? Like there's a rise in fucking dogs being put down. It's a failed fucking task. Like this whole paradigm shift in trying to get dogs onto this positive method of dog training, which I'm not opposed to dogs being treated more ethically and positively, and neither are you and neither are most of our genuine colleagues. I mean, in fact, we embrace it, but not to a point of insanity where it's just like, oh, let's just take everything and let's throw caution to the wind because we're so overprotective of it. It's wild what I'm seeing when I go around to see people's dogs and even the suggestions that they have in place. So part 2 of this, like I want to hear your response to this new proposal in Tasmania. And part 2 of this, I want to talk about people's perception of what a tough dog is because that's even come up in some conversations lately and there's some really bizarre concepts of what people think a tough dog is.
Yeah.
Over to you, sir.
Well, I think that what we're seeing in Tasmania is typical of what we've been seeing kind of everywhere.
Lazy, knee-jerk.
Yeah, well, I think there's that, but then I think that it's issue-motivated groups. And I think that there's the groups who have a big amount of funding and they're pushing that agenda. And, you know, like now that we're exposed ourselves as conspiracy theorists, there's more to it than just people who...
We'll get somebody saying that we believe in dragons soon.
Dragon believer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that there is more to it. Like, I think if you're a rank and file person who's like a force-free trainer and you're actually like trying to get change with dogs and you're actually on the tools doing this stuff, like you probably have been sold a lie, right? Like it's one thing to be like, no, I choose to train this way and I accept the results and I work within this structure. I don't want to use any tools. I don't want to use aversive methods. I think that like that doesn't sit well with me. I can get the necessary results doing the way that I do. Like that's one kind of person. And they're the people that we typically are in confrontation with, right? Because they're our peers. They're the people that we actually get to interact with. But they're typically not the ones pushing that. There's a source like above them that they're bought in on. And, you know, they probably believe in the method, but then, you know, what I've often seen is that people sort of always refer to a higher power and they do that in terms of like, okay, well, I'm just a in-home behavior person. I'm, you know, and I've only been doing this for 5-10 years, whatever. I'm this, but you got to see this guy. He's the one that really teaches, right? Like he's the one and more people need to learn from him. And it's like, no, but he's not. He's lied to you. He doesn't actually get the change that he says he gets with those dogs. Like show me a clip of it. Show me how it works. Like, and people like you and I, and the overwhelming majority of I think the dog training world are results-based trainers, right? So like I'm a balanced trainer because I need to get results. I need to show people that what the training I'm doing is being effective. And I'm not in the business of creating lifetime clients of like we have to do a session every week. You know, we're nearly making progress. You can nearly walk past another dog without an explosion, you know, like all that kind of shit. Like I'm not in the business of that. And I'm not in the business of making dogs live under management for their entire life. Like I don't like that idea. And so like, you know, I had someone bring a dog to me recently that is deeply ingrained within the field of the force-free ideology and has a dog that, you know, needs a lot of help and has been doing all the things, but basically has a dog that is living under management for its entire life. And it like, that's, you know, it's achievable, right? Like they can do that. But then when they bring the dog to me and it's like, no, we can make massive progress with this dog. And I think the biggest thing when we do, especially what the average in-home behavior mod trainer is doing is reactivity.
So let me ask you a very valid question there, right? That person that came to you, why did they come to you if they've got their dog sewn up?
Because they came to me because they're not happy with what they're getting.
I was hunting for that answer.
Yeah.
You know, like without it being contrived.
Yeah.
I was hunting for that answer.
Yeah.
You don't do things like that if you're happy.
Yeah, that's right. And so like the person is not bought in on the ideology, but is kind of peripherally involved. I have to be careful what I say.
Of course. Absolutely. We're talking about clients.
Yeah, like she's a vet.
Yeah.
Right. So she's very in on it and is just like, hey, this isn't going where this could be fixed. And then brings the dog to me. And within an hour, we have a very different dog.
Yeah.
And that involved quite a lot of compulsion on the dog, but all through play, right? So like that, me and that dog were best friends. Like it took a while. The dog didn't want to be fucking anywhere near me, right? Like it's a very fearful, scared dog. But to most people observing, it would have been a very close to force-free session because all I did was play with the dog. But play involves an element of like give and take, right? Like the game can't be all you winning. You have to lose every now and again, right? And that's what a game is. And so there has to be some pressure on that. And then the dog was afraid of certain parts of my shop, like it wouldn't go down the ghost end and stuff like that. And so like, no worries, like I will go with you, but you're going. It's happening. And I'll let you borrow my strength. Like I will model it to you and you have learned who I am through our last half an hour of interacting with each other. But the ball or the thing that we're playing tug over went down that end of the place. So we're going to go get it together and I'll support you along the way, but you're fucking doing it, right? Like we're doing this. And that's the sort of training that just like the dog has to go through that difficulty and come out the other side. And that's what gets left out of a lot of this sort of style of training. So
they just want to remove any form of difficulty.
Yeah, any form of stress, any form of like, oh, this is something that must be overcome. And I think that is just so, you're robbing the entity of so much joy when you don't give them anything to overcome.
It's just anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
Science points directly into, you know, when you overcome manageable stress.
Yeah.
And that's what we want the dog to work on is manageable stress.
Yeah.
Not everything that we talk about is through incremental exposure. Every time I work with a client, that's the same conversation I have with them all the time. Everything that we're doing is incremental. This is for the benefit of the student. I don't refer to it as the dog. I say your dog is your student. You're working your dog through a problem. And I use Chad Mackin's quote because I really like it. The dog's not a problem, it's having a problem. That's the way you've got to look at it. It's having a problem it doesn't understand. You're speaking a language to your dog that your dog can't catch up with, but use baby language to your dog. And incrementally over time, as you go through those phase shifts of training, teaching or learning to training and into proofing phase, you'll look back and you'll say, he gets it.
Yeah.
Like I can see evidence of that. I can see it supporting through the tangible timeline that we're now in. We see viewable evidence, observable evidence of this taking place. So when that happens, you know, that's what I'm saying is when that quote existed the other day is why didn't you ask a dog trainer about this pulling on the lead and pulling on the harness business?
Yeah.
We don't need a fucking modern scientist to tell us this.
Yeah.
That's insulting, that shit. That's not funny. Like I look at that and it made my blood pressure go through the roof. For some reason, people believe a lady or a guy in a white jacket now suddenly has this answer and now the water is clear when we've been saying it for a long time. But then you've been getting the anti-mob or the woke mob on that other side saying, oh no, these guys use tools.
Yeah.
So that just removes any of the efficacy in the training methodologies.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that's to sort of round out what I was saying. I think that the majority of the sort of rank and file people who are force-free trainers actually training dogs, the majority of them will tell you like, oh, it can be done by this person, or we just have to persist for longer, or this is the life of management. This is how this kind of dog lives. And for a lot of them, I think that because of the indoctrination that happens, they don't realize that there are other ways to do that. And that balance training, I think that what ends up happening is that it, like they're imagining the dog daddy, right? Like they're imagining like, oh, every balance trainer, when you come to them with an aggression issue with the dog, is just going to helicopter that dog around and then problem solve. We shut the dog down, give it back, and that's what balance training is. Like, of course, we can't deny that there's people that are doing that. We have, like, I'm using the examples. But I think overwhelmingly they've lost touch with what balance is. I use that line quite a bit when people are like really overtly anti-balance training. I'm always like, hang on, I just want to see if I fully understand correctly that you're opposed to creating balance. It's not that I'm going to turn up and start creating aversions in the dog. I'm going to do that if that's the appropriate thing to do. Because if the dog has too much draw to something that is dangerous or inappropriate for it to be drawn to, yep, I can create an aversion in doing that. But that's not necessarily a thing I'm going to do first. I'm going to investigate like, hey, is there something else you'd like to do? Can I use differential reinforcement? Can I use nothing but like positive reinforcement for performing another behavior and a bit of negative reinforcement to help you do that? That might look like some collar pressure or something like that. No? Okay, really committed to that other thing? Okay, now I can make it aversive, right? Like I've ticked all the boxes. I've gone through the protocols of like, okay, how else can I communicate with you? No, those aren't going to work. Now we can go to punishment.
Exactly. Like you remove a lot of the barriers to begin with, and then the dog goes, well, this is what's left, mate.
Yeah. And they're like, all right, got it. And I think that's one of the things. So I think it's frustrating for us because the people we actually get to interact with are bought in on nonsense. The problem is like even saying that, will put people's backs against the wall. As we've said in the past, there's plenty of people who don't use any tools, compulsion or pressure, who truly think of themselves as force-free, that are good at what they do, but they're good at what they do, not what I do, right? And I think as well, the silly thing about these bans, like especially what we're facing, and we've had this conversation a million times, people are probably sick of us having it, but is that your ideology is not my ideology. And so in Tasmania now, where they're effectively trying to completely ban not just the tools, but the use of balance training in any way, right? Like that, as I read the thing there, they're trying to push for a force-free agenda, not just remove the tools, but actually compel people to train in a particular way. That's how I interpret what they want, is that people aren't going to do that. So like what will end up happening is, and this is what, inevitably happens, is that the balance trainers either leave the field or they get pushed underground. And so if they leave the field, they're no longer available to help people. Or if balance training gets pushed underground, now it's like seedy and dirty that you have to find a guy who can secretly do these things for you. There's the problem of now people have leverage over each other, which is a huge problem in the dog training space because people are sort of forced to do illegal things together, which now, like, there ain't nothing like a secret to keep people together, you know what I mean? Or to turn people against each other, give each other leverage against each other because they're training, which is just normal dog training, but what they're doing is illegal. And well, you were probably out of there, but like in Melbourne with bite work, right? That is the huge issue is that...
I was there when that all started going down.
So of course you're not going to stop people doing that, but now it's happening in these underground circles and there's people who are holding over each other the ability to dob on each other that they've been doing this and holding like a power over each other, which is totally inappropriate.
Well, if you're not allowed to do bite work, how do dogs turn up to trials interstate and know how to do bite work?
Yeah, exactly. But also how are the police buying dogs off people that have their grips set and stuff like that? Like it makes no sense.
Sorry, Melbourne guys.
Yeah.
Love you.
So with the balance training, it's either that the balance trainers leave. If it's not allowed to happen, balance trainers just leave the industry. Like that's what I would do.
But people are applauding that. That's what they want.
Yeah, but they want that.
Yeah.
But the outcome is that if there's no balance trainers available, they're only the sort of underground one. So the odd person gets in touch, manages to find, they get the number of a guy who can come around and help. The guy can't advertise that he's that. But then you're able to get in touch with him. But his education is at a stalemate, right? Because he can't be overt in doing these things, which means that balance trainer now can't have a mentor that he sends video to. He can't, it's very difficult to grow when you have to keep a secret what you're doing, right? So that's by design. That's what they want there.
Of course they.
But the alternative is when a reasonable person has an actual problem like an aggression issue with the dog, which is probably just reactivity or something like that, that could easily be managed with a bit of like, hey, why are you doing this? Let's make you feel good about other stuff, teach you to be like who you are, play some games, get you more confident. And then when you do that problem behavior, I can go, hey, don't do that, right? Do this other thing that you know how to do. And that's really easy, normal balance training that we're doing all the time. When a person who knows that's what needs to happen, which is most dog people, like especially people who are still connected to reality, in the more rural areas where they're interacting with real life, they're more going to be like, hey, I know what needs to happen here, but I don't know how to do it, right? Like most people are aware of just like the way that they were raised themselves is that when you're good, you get told you're good and you get a pat on the back. And when you're wrong, you get realigned, right? Your bad behavior doesn't go just ignored, right? Like most people growing up had someone clip them over the ear and go, hey, don't fucking do that, right? Like do the other thing that you know is good and I'll be proud of you and I'll reinforce you for having done that. So most people sort of get that. And so if you've got a problem with your dog, you know what needs to happen, but not the specifics because you're not a dog trainer. You don't know exactly how to do it. But the overarching theme of what needs to happen is that good things need to be reinforced and problematic behaviors need to be made aversive. When someone turns up and goes, no, we're definitely not doing that. We're just throwing cookies on the floor. A lot of people, and the reason I know this is because I fucking was one of these people. This is how I got into dogs. You kind of go like, that's not what I was expecting, but I'll give it a go. Like, you're the expert. And what's the saying then when people interact with that kind of trainer? It's always like, oh, no, that's outdated. That's antiquated. You're thinking of dominance theory. That's been disproven, blah, blah, blah. And you go like, oh, righto. Like, I'm not a fucking rocket scientist. Like,
well, I don't want to be a bad guy. That's where the needle points. And that's where you start drawing conclusion. You don't want to be the bad guy.
So I'll do what you say, right? Yeah. No worries. I'll do it.
You're literally at a hearing at that point in time where you're getting mobbed by about a dozen people who are all saying anybody who does that is a bad person.
Yep.
And an evil person with evil intention.
Yeah. So then, okay, that's my framing. I'm going to try and do what you've said. It's not going to work because to fix a problematic dog, to fix using nothing but force-free methods, you have to be fucking good. There's certainly many times where it's totally possible using force-free methods, right? Like a lot of the time, the dogs never have as big an issue as people make out. But you have to have the right timing. You have to do everything really correctly. It is much harder to do, especially for a layperson that's not a trainer and is now having to really be at a pinnacle of excellence in their reward timing and delivery and stuff like that, and the way that they then have to manage their dog to actually fix the problem. So chances are the trainer isn't one of those people. The trainer probably has a mentor or has learned from someone like that, and so believes what they're saying is possible because they have seen it, right? They are aware of how it can go down. But now they're expecting this random person who has the problematic dog to be able to do that level of training, which just isn't going to be possible. And so what happens? That person then is like, oh, well, you're a fucking idiot. I'm not like, I'm going to tell you it worked great, right? So that you stop calling me and we can stop having these sessions. That's how most client relationships are severed, right? Because the client goes like, this is bullshit. I'm not doing this anymore. And the trainer's like, okay, ready for our next session? And they go, the dog's fixed, right? Like the amount of people who have come to me after telling their trainer that the dog is fixed. And then the trainer puts that in the Rolodex of like, oh, success, right? Like I did it. And they don't know that they haven't because the owner doesn't want to have the conversation about, your fucking things are bullshit, mate. Like,
you're a fraud. You're a complete and utter fraud.
Yeah. So they don't want to have that conversation. They just go, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Or they cancel a couple of sessions and then they just disappear into the ether, right? And so then the person is in a position where they're going to do those balanced techniques, but without any guidance or support because there's no one that they can talk to. There's no one that can show them how to use those tools. There's nowhere that they can even now purchase those tools because that's been made illegal, whatever. So what are they left with is the brutality of like them doing it to the dog. The other thing that we see a lot, and like I don't want to put this evil on a lot of like random dog owners, but what I see from a lot of the like force-free community, and I use that with my fucking inverted commas, is they then push themselves to the point of extreme frustration with the dog, and now they're no longer a force-free trainer, but they are an emotional non-force-free trainer. And so that the corrections that they eventually give, and they say, oh, I've made mistakes and I've reverted to my old ways, but those are now emotional corrections. You're correcting that dog in this moment, not for what he did in this moment.
Through your own frustration.
Through frustration at yourself, you're correcting him for the 100 other times or the 100 other dogs that you wanted to do this for, and then we see them put into that. And we've observed this in many of those people. You see them. When you see them leave the training environment with that tight grip on their teeth and the leash wrapped around their hand, follow one of those people back to the car. See what happens.
Let me ask you a genuine question. How many secrets do you have to keep for clients? How many secrets do you have to keep for professional people that you're talking to?
Mate, I've signed a bunch of NDAs on that very topic.
Exactly. I'm talking fucking mega hundreds of people that I have to keep the secret for.
Yeah.
Of please don't tell because of the backlash that I'll get if I come and talk to you.
I'll be kicked out of my community if they find that out.
Yeah. I'll be ostracized for this relationship that you and I are doing here.
Mate, I've even done that with police officers in other countries where balance training is completely illegal.
Online, I'm talking online, I'm talking local, I'm talking high-level professionals, I'm talking other trainers. You know, like there's a lot of people who have come to me and said, you can't tell anyone.
Yeah.
If we agree to do this, we can't tell anyone.
Yeah.
And I haven't. I have not broken that agreement.
I resent everybody that's put me in that position because it's a very shitty position to be in, because now I'm like, fuck you, I'm not keeping your fucking secret so that you can continue being a fraud. But also I then look at their dog and I'm like, oh, fuck, like I should probably help you. Right?
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Because I've done the same. Like there's people that I've said, I don't want to buy into this. I'm not somebody that you can just sucker along with this sort of thing. But then I look at the dog and it's always the dog that I fucking feel the sympathy for.
Yeah.
You know, because I look at the dog and I think, imagine going through life being henpecked your whole fucking life, All you needed was just someone to say, don't do that, mate.
Yeah.
And then you're over the problem, because that's literally what happens. I've learned from some great mentors myself where people have said, mate, stop being a fucking idiot. Stop doing that. And you stop doing it, and suddenly clarity breaks free in front of you. Like the road is now clear. And you think, why didn't you do this? You were the responsible mentor that I came to see. You were my guide. You were my prophet. Why didn't you give me this material? Why did you fuck around with it for so long? And but I didn't think you were ready for it. And I thought you were too fragile, and you were at a state where I didn't want to disrupt what you needed at the point in time. There may be some truth to that for some period of time, but not all the fucking time. After a period of time, you got to question the ethics of that person. Why did you keep taking my money? Why did you keep fucking dragging me down the road? Mate, the secret keeping for me is a trouble one, and it's like fucking swallowing poison.
Yeah.
After a period of time, you can just feel it bubbling up inside you, thinking, why am I keeping these secrets? Why am I not exposing these people? It is a fucking hard poison to keep drinking all the time. Ask yourself, how much do I consume before it kills me?
Yeah. That's the problem, is you're stuck between how's it going to go for the dog if you don't explain to this person how to do it.
Mate, it's getting towards the end of the year. It's getting very frustrating. There's a lot of things that are happening around the world that are just unspeakable at the moment. Like I was watching serious people having an ethical debate online the other day, convinced that biological men can have babies. And I just fucking shut it down. I just thought, I'm done with the internet.
Yeah.
You know, like this silliness has spilled over into a lot of stuff that's happening in the world. I've never known in my entire life a biological man being able to have a baby. That just to me is just fucking silly.
I've seen that movie with Arnie. Arnie gets pregnant in that movie. What's it called? Junior. Is it the follow-up from Twins? Is it like Twins?
It's kind of like that, because I think Danny DeVito's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyway, whatever.
Getting away from that, because I mean, I'm not trying to hurt people who like are doing things in their life which is beneficial or important to their identity. But I don't need that ramrodded down my throat. Like people with genuinely problematic dogs don't need to be told these bullshit theories that are only fucking their dogs up more.
Yeah.
And then ultimately it's basically, just put the dog down.
Yeah.
Where the entire conversation around the dog is we need to do what's best for the dog. But it's got to be under my banner because that's what I've been told. And I'm convinced, I'm absolutely convinced that the people at the top of these tiers, there's a business level up the top here that's guiding this.
That's right.
That's the frightening thing, is there's people who really believe that they're doing God's work. They're working on this ethical layer.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for these people because they're fucking duped.
Yeah, that's
How
right.
many times,
but they're the people we're having to have arguments with. We never get access to the people who are writing this policy that they know is just fucking stupidity and
but
madness.
they're smart people. They're sitting in their ivory tower
Well, they've
drafting up fucking legislation.
They've conscripted these poor idiots that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Ideological idiots.
You know, you and I talked about this last week. How many times have you done things which you believed that you were on the winning side of an argument, and then you've looked back and thought, I'm actually the bad guy because of this?
Well, mate, I just explained that I was one of the fucking black-wearing stormtroopers.
I'm almost certain that I've mentioned this before. When I went to see my dad before he died, he was neglectful to me and my sister. And it didn't mean that he was a really bad dude. Like, he didn't knock us about. He didn't sexually abuse us. Like, some other people have suffered horrific things from parents. But he neglected us in the way that he knew hardships that we were going through. And he kind of wanted to play a role because he was forced to play a role.
Do you think he knew how your stepfather treated you?
Yeah, he did, because I told him.
Yeah, okay.
I told him, and he said, I can't do anything about it. I can't interfere.
Yeah.
That was the day that I felt completely powerless.
Yeah.
And I was
alone, probably.
I was alone, and it's the first time that I've been afraid.
Yeah.
Really, really afraid, because I thought I had an ally. I thought my dad would rescue me in that situation. I really thought he would come to my rescue. And he basically, an adult man telling like a kid that's probably Rip's age, I can't do anything. I can't help you. I'm not allowed to interfere. And I realized I'm on my own. I have to deal with this situation. Mate, fucking heart-wrenching. Absolutely heart-wrenching. On his deathbed, he realized what a complete and utter piece of shit that he was for doing things like that. And he bawled his eyes out. And I was so fucking mad with him. Like, he was hugging me, and I went to push him away. Like, he was imminent dying. And I went to push him away, and he grabbed me and he goes, I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry for everything. I can't make up for it. He goes, if I've got more time, I'm going to change what I can. I'm going to try and fix everything. I said, that ship sailed, mate. It's gone. you know, you don't owe it to me. And he goes, but I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. And I said, I forgive you. I'm mad about it because I had to endure it, and so did my sister. Well, like we had to put up with this stuff. And I said, but you're in a position where you could have done something about it. Like you could have changed what was happening to us. This is where I get mad with fucking dog owners, because dog owners can change these things. This is why I fight for this. I'm a victim of fucking cruelty. I was abused as a fucking kid. So was my sister. But that's her story to tell. I'm not going to talk about her hardship, but I was fucking abused, mate. I was terrified as a child from my stepfather. He was either very loving or very fucking sadistic, and I couldn't pick the side of it. I revealed this to one of the people that I went over to the force-free side. Like I talked about my encounter with physical abuse and my understanding of it. And they said, well, that's why you've come to us. I was feeling a vibration in my body at the time which felt completely out of sync with these people. That was the beginning when they said that comment to me. Like I just thought, I can't feel what you're feeling. I don't associate with what you're trying to do because I'm watching dogs getting killed for something that I know that I can help them get through with minimal interaction. Like I know I can do this. And mate, the proof is in the pudding. Again, when we're talking about that comment that the scientist made that collars and harnesses increase more pulling with dogs, like we have seen this. We've traveled this road. We've been on the path with the dogs. Like we've worked them through this. And all of these dogs, I mean, I was in a lesson with a dog yesterday in the Northern Beaches. You know, this is a dog that's fearful of people, who's been bailing them up and stuff like that. The dog's sitting at my feet getting belly rubs and fucking run all over me. The lady's going, what's going on here? Like he's not really like this with people. I said, he's fine. Other people don't understand him.
Yeah.
I'm giving him pressure at this point in time. You know, like I'm putting a slip lead on him and giving him a little bit of pressure and relief. Not telling you to suck eggs, just telling a story about what's going on. But this is like...
Yeah, but you provided the dog boundaries, and then it was like, oh, now I know where I stand.
This is the mega thousandth time I've done this.
Yeah.
Where I'm seeing this. I'm on the driver's seat with the dog as my passenger, and we're both having a hell of a time together. And the dog's mourning me going when I'm leaving. Like that's the thing, is that I walk out the door and the dog's going, oh man, you're leaving.
Yeah.
And the owner's all happy because now they feel empowered. And I said, hey, if you listen to me, you're in an area where you're going to get shit about this.
Yeah.
This is a very woke area with this type of thing. You've got to be prepared to take the lumps for this. And she said, I can't have it that he is the other way without doing something about it. The reason you're here is I need to do something about it. I said, yeah, good call. And I said, but just be prepared that you're going to walk a lonely road now, because they love pushing you out of their club for doing this.
Yeah, that's one of the worst, is when like just normal pet dog clients stop using a tool like a prong or something like that because they've been accosted in the street by some fuckwit. That's one of the worst, because then those people are like, you know, they don't know, right? So they're like, what do you mean I'm a terrible person? My dog trainer told me to do this. Like, what are the other options? And they're, oh, you could do this. And then, you know, I've had that numerous times where people get in touch and they're like, no, I can't do that anymore because Beryl down the street fucking went off at me and told me I was abusing my dog. I want to use a different method. I'm like, the other methods are abuse. Like what you're doing here is fine. Your dog's great. When your dog beats a dickhead to people on the street, you go, hey, knock it off. And then the dog can continue to walk around. I don't know how we're going to do that. We've already had the conversation about you don't want to carry the treats. You don't want to do all this sort of stuff. You're not prepared to put any time in. That tool is going to be fine. Like you're going to be able to walk around and tell the dog the problem when it does it, and it'll know like, oh, okay, don't do that. The other option is you just let the dog be a dickhead. I don't know where you want to go with this.
I feel like Groundhog Day. I feel like you just wake up.
Yeah, well,
and
I'm sure there's people listening like, oh God, this fucking conversation again.
It's got to be had.
Yeah, but it's another state. It's another state that's trying to like, and probably will be successful. This is probably
but that's why
through.
they do it. They find little states when a overwhelming, domineering force are trying to come in. They look for little resistance so they can just sweep over the top of it.
Yeah,
they're basically just hoping everyone will just lie over and play possum so they can just fucking layer it in. There's no resistance, and then they can say, well, now we've got several states that are complying with us.
Yeah.
You know, nobody stood up, nobody said anything, nobody resisted. You know, and that's the thing with apathy. That's the terrible thing about it, is that there's so many people who see things happening that are wrong in the world. There's another good saying, for all that it is for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing about it.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of times, mate, where things have happened in the street. I remember working security, there was a woman getting fucking sexually harassed to the point where what was going to happen imminently was rape going to take place. There were people standing on the other side of the street watching it, too afraid to be involved in it. I run down there and put my dog on the guy. I told him what was happening. I said, get away from that woman now. And I was running down the street and he kept going. So I just put Harley straight on him. I just went bang. And Harley fucking mouthed him up and tore him up on the street while I watched it happen. And the lady, I escorted her back into the hotel and sat her down and called the police and had to call an ambulance for that piece of shit that was out there. I was yelling to the two guys across the road. I'm going, what the fuck happened with you, man? You were just watching this happening. What? Like, why? And they're going, oh, yeah, but this guy's a psycho. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
What are we doing, people? Like, we've got to start asking ourselves the question, why are we allowing this shit to happen?
Yeah.
But when you talk to our opponents on the other side, they say that about us. We are doing something about it. We are taking you guys off the street.
Yeah.
You're the ones that are using tools against dogs. They really think that they're the good guy in this. But they don't realize they're the emperor.
Yeah.
They're the Darth Vader crew.
Yeah. Before we move on, I do want to talk about that hard dog thing you were saying, but the character that I really dislike in the dog world is the former balance trainer who then is like, no, I saw the light and I'm like, I'll never do those horrible things to a dog again. Now I'm force-free trainer. And I was like, no, you're just an abusive piece of shit. You're a very low-skilled balance trainer with a very short...
You just realized you couldn't make it.
Yeah, like you just weren't good at it.
And you'll do it in the dark.
Yeah, and you are just uneducated on how to actually do it. You were just following your piece of shit heart that told you to hurt dogs, and now you've realized how bad that was, and you've gone like a full 180 the other direction. But guess what, motherfucker? The fifth hermetic principle is polarity, and you are just doing the same thing in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
You are still the same person. You haven't changed. You are still causing problems for dogs, just in a different way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mate, and that's why I say when I did it and I jumped ship for that time, I've hated myself for that period of time. I hated myself. I was making myself physically sick over that whole time span because I just realized you're a fraud. You don't believe this. You don't believe these people. You're not talking out against it. You're not telling them that this is wrong. You're watching dogs being fucking executed and not saying how bad this is, that you could have helped the dog, that you could have walked those people out, that you could have said to them in, not even in private. And at the end, the fucking relief I felt like I took a cloak of lead off when I walked out of that organization. I'm not saying those people were fucking horrible pieces of shit. I was the horrible piece of shit. It was me. I was a fucking fraud existing in an area.
Well, because you didn't believe it.
I didn't believe it.
And I think that's the problem.
I wanted to believe it because I felt like maybe if you can't beat them, you should join them. You know, maybe there's something in here. Maybe I should be looking at it. Maybe because I've spoken out against it without any evidence to support it, who am I to say that? What rights do I have to do that? Like you and I have said as a caveat, and this is not to explain this away or trying to win any favor with some of these people because I don't want to be their friends, but there are some nice people out there who I've met that are working with a type of dog that does need to be trained that way.
Yeah, for sure.
And can be trained that way.
Yeah.
I'm happy for those people and I'm happy for those dogs as well.
Yeah.
Because if that's successful, they got the trainer they deserve to have at that point in time.
Yeah.
And I don't need to see that dog. You know,
Yeah, that's right.
And if I do see the dog, it doesn't mean I can't help the dog because being a balanced trainer, I can adjust my scale of approach to how I'll train that dog.
That's the point, right? So by being a balanced trainer, I can and often are a force-free trainer.
You can leave the tools.
Yeah.
And that's right.
I can be like, okay, what's the best way to train? What's the best way to figure this out? Like, what's going to work best for the dog? And that doesn't always involve any compulsion or pressure. It might be totally hands-off, force-free. I do a lot of shaping still. I think that shaping's
wonderful.
Yeah, it can really empower a dog, change its mindset. There's lots of pros to it.
And develop a great relationship between you and the dog.
Yeah.
Like you can really, it's like learning a language together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like my go-to, like overwhelmingly when someone gets in contact with me and they've got like a nervous reactive dog, overwhelmingly what I tell people is you feed the dog in the box and you play with the dog in a way where the games get spicy and the dog loves it and you teach the dog toughness through those two things. Overwhelmingly, the way that I encourage people to play has a bit of pressure in it because it's fun to play like rougher games. So the dog's more bought in. But beyond that, it's mostly like a force-free approach, right? In that I'm not going to tell people, oh yeah, expose a dog to a trigger and fucking light it up and shut it down. Like there's no one giving that advice. I mean, there are people giving that advice, but that's the opposite end of the stupid force-free polarity spectrum, right? Like, so overwhelmingly, most dog trainers have some version of that where they're like, oh, desensitized counter condition. Like how that's going to go down, we'll decide on different ways that's going to happen. But a real dog trainer is going to look at a nervous reactive dog and go, oh, we have to strengthen this motherfucker up and make him feel differently about things.
Exactly.
That's how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not going to do that by helicoptering the dog around. But similarly, if I get a dog come back at me, then fucking guess what? I'm not getting bitten. You're getting like, I'm fucking hanging the leash at arm's length. And until you calm down, you're staying out there. If that means your front feet are off the ground, well, then that's how I'm not getting bitten. And when you calm down, I'm going to take all that pressure off and we'll be like, hey man, don't do that. And we're going to fucking recover and keep moving forward from there.
Yeah. We're not going full Andrew Tate.
I saw a post the other day. It came up in my feed of Andrew Tate's dog. It looks like it has a wonderful life.
It probably does.
Yeah.
I've met some people before that can be very polarizing type of people whose dogs live the best life ever, whose children live the best life ever.
Yeah.
Just because this person is bloated and opinionated on how they feel and what they think about the world, it doesn't mean that the people around them aren't living their best life sometimes.
Tell us about people thinking they've got tough dogs.
You know, it's 52 minutes into it. Do you want
Oh, okay. No, well then fuck that.
Yeah.
Let's go back to drones.
There's a big conversation in that, and maybe we can do it next week.
Yeah,
because
okay.
It's,
no, next week's going to be a circle jerk. It's the end of the year. We've got to bust out of this negativity that we've fallen back into. That's we seem to bounce one for one.
When I was in the kitchen and you and I were having this original conversation, and based on last week's conversation, I got a online message from somebody who said loved it and felt that you and I have been playing it safe for a long time, but also really appreciate a lot of the honesty you and I have had, the vulnerabilities that we've shared, the personal things that we've talked about. They asked me not to expose them. They said, like there's a private conversation between you and me. And when I make a promise with people with things like that, I promise them. I've held the fucking secrets of people that I currently don't like, people that I've actually mourned their friendship death. They were a friend and now I've mourned them. They don't exist anymore. That person died. But I still hold, they've told me something in confidence and I've given them my word. Mate, I fucking hold that in confidence, even for people that I've mourned, like people that I don't like, and even some people that I consider now enemies. I still, if they've asked me to keep that secret, because it's not about them, it's about me. It's about my personal integrity. Then if I give that up, it says a lot about me as a person that I've decided to throw something out there and give it away when I said I wouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that I'm the most virtuous motherfucker that walked the earth. I've got principles still, and I do care about things, and I care about the teachings that I've had and the good people who spent time on me, because it's not so much about me. It honors those people who gave me time. Like I shared some things about my own father, but there are people who were important role models and figures to me growing up, mainly men. They were men, like people who are mentors to me in martial arts and stuff like that. Like one of my old mentors, Russell, who took me under his wing and spent a lot of time with me. He was a fucking good man. He was a good family man, and he was a good ex-Vietnam veteran. He suffered a lot of issues with time in the war and stuff like that. Never brought it home, never gloated about it, never talked about it like it was something that he was a hero for killing people. He wore it fucking hard and felt that he needed to do something to make it back what was taken from him. He could have been a pervert or a weirdo or anything like that. He was a good man. He was a fucking good man. And I appreciate him and other people, like my mentors in my dog training journey, my friends and colleagues in my dog training journey, people in my martial arts world, my motorbike riding mates, like all of these people have somehow played a very important role in helping me try and become a better person just through life. And this is, I think you and I have spent a long time down this path talking about on the podcast. It's not about us, you and me or about you. It's about all of us. It's about the little things that we can do to make a difference, not just in the human side of things, but also very much in the dog scope of things. The sacrifices I've made for dogs, I've made money out of dogs. There's no secrets about this. I've made a living out of the dog space, but I've also, there's plenty of times where I've done charitable work that nobody needs to know about. That's my business. That's my give back. Like there's people that I've helped that it's never been of cost or service or, that they owe me or it's a tick or anything like that. There's another group that I belong to who always says, if you want to be really charitable, do it in privacy. I think if you really want to be a person of virtue, doesn't mean that we're like that all the time. But if you like being virtuous, or you study what true virtue is, it's not about the fucking reward all the time. I really believe, this is why I scorn social media sometimes, because I really feel that some people are always seeking that reward.
Yeah.
For
sure.
They've misaligned what true virtue is all about. They make it look like they're doing good things. It's like these people who give a poor person on the street cash, but film it so they can get all their mates to like the video.
Yeah.
I
think
that's insidious.
Well, I think that speaks to how people's reward systems work. If you're only validated by the approval of others, then you need people to see the good deeds that you do so that you can get the admiration, adoration, the approval back at you.
Yeah.
But when you actually...
And don't get me wrong, man, there's times where I need that too.
Yeah. Like,
like I need a bit of that dessert from time to time because I'm a human being. I'm flawed. I'm a flawed dude. There's things that I feel like I need to make up for sometimes. There's apologies that I feel like I need to give to people that I've genuinely wronged. But there's also times where I need to stand my ground with people as well, or in situations and say, no, fuck you. You're the devil in that story.
Yeah. I think if there's any advice to be given, it took me a long time to really understand this in and of myself, but when you actually like yourself, you don't need the validation of others, right? And that's the thing that I think most people are missing. And you said something interesting before, like when you were doing the force-free thing and you said that you hated yourself while you were doing it. Like that's how most people are getting around.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
you said that last week. And,
dude.
And mate, I spent some time on the week thinking of this, which is probably why it sparked up a bit of this conversation, because it feels like there's a bit of venom in me that I need to spit out.
Have you seen, I can't remember which Avengers movie, it must be the latest Guardians of the Galaxy, where Mantis, I can't remember exactly what happens in it, but Drax, she's trying to rescue him or something. I can't remember what it is. And someone says like, why are you so obsessed with him? She kind of breaks down. She's like, he's the only one of you that doesn't fucking hate himself. Like that's a big thing.
That's powerful, right?
Yeah, isn't that right? Because she can read people's minds, blah, 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 right? But it's like, she's like, he actually has like happiness within himself. Like he doesn't need the validation of you guys because he actually fucking likes himself. Which I think is what's missing from a lot of the dog space especially. There's a lot of people who need that external validation because they have no capacity to generate it within themselves.
They've run from a lot of things into dog space because finally they feel that the dog can elevate them.
Yeah.
Finally the dog can give them the light that they've been so sadly lacking a lot of their life. A lot of times our parents do this to us. It's our parents who fucking rob you of the validation that you feel like you need. Like when you're trying to go and show them the drawing or something that you did or make them proud and they turn around and say, oh, go away, I haven't got time for you, or that's ugly or something like that. Parents don't realize they do that sort of shit.
Yeah, yeah.
I loved hearing last week's episode, I loved hearing about how you got ripped to work through his fear when he went to see Thor and the God Killer scene and when the kids were getting stolen, how you sat down with him as a father and said to your son, this is going to work out. Like he's going to win in the end. It's going to be okay. Like you took him from a moment where he could have had a meltdown out of that and left the cinema and stressed about that. But you sat with him and you gave him the tools to be able to work through that and understand my dad wouldn't lead me astray with this sort of thing. There's never a time where I've heard you talk about your sons or anything like that where you haven't tried to work through and made the time to work through a problem that they're having because you've been thinking about it in a holistic space. And I think that's where people suffer a lot is because their parents don't do that or they don't do that for their dogs. Like they don't give them the opportunity and they expect so much of them with so little input from them as well. They want validation. I'm a good parent. Remember this time I did this for you?
Yeah, yeah. I bought you that thing.
I bought you that thing. But what about all the other times? And no one's perfect. I don't want people to look at this and have a meltdown and think, oh, I'm a complete piece of shit and a failure as a parent. I've been on the fucking hard side of this. I grew up fucking very lonely and very afraid because my dad fucking told me that he couldn't help me and he couldn't do anything. So a lot of things that I've done in my life, I've stood on my own about it. A lot of the battles that I've had, I've made sure I put myself in a position where I could do something about it. And that's probably why I do get so fixated and so virtuous when I want to sort a problem out and I see it to the end is because I think I'm going to do this. Like I'm not going to let this failure take place. That's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is when I put my mind to something, then I see it through. It doesn't mean that I always do this. It doesn't mean that I'm a raving success in everything I do because I'm not. That's not me. But I can also obsess over things in a bad way and make things my project, which shouldn't be my project. And that's the terrifying side of it as well. And it's not to say that I'm a terrifying person. When I put too much effort into something, I can see it through to the fucking bitter end. And that's the damage that was done to me. You know, like that's the thing that was done to me where I have to work through that. That's a problematic thing that I want to shed that skin.
That's heavy, man.
It's just a fact, mate. Because I really reflect on Socrates' point is know thyself. And you can't deny that of yourself. You kind of have to be in touch with the good side of you and the bad side of you.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just look at it like I'm a good person. I do all these wonderful things. You have to look at it from I'm a whole person. I do good things sometimes and I do bad things sometimes. The most important thing is I learn from both what should be done in any given situation. And then sometimes you just work out, I thought I was doing the right thing. It didn't turn out that it was. Or I thought I was doing the wrong thing. Turned out it was the right thing. You know, sometimes that gets flipped on its head too. So you have to be a little easier on yourself when you're going through those sort of shit, because I watch dogs go through that sort of shit as well, where they're trying to, you know, flip through what's the right thing and they're really having a hard time with it. And sometimes you just got to forgive them. Sometimes you just got to say, today wasn't really about training a skill. Today was working through some shit that needed to be worked through.
More often than not, that's
more
dog
often than
training,
not,
isn't it? Right? Like, we're just like,
but that's our job.
Yeah.
You know, like we're unqualified psychologists.
Yeah.
We don't have the piece of paper to do it, but we're doing it nonetheless.
Yeah, and through the game of charades as well.
Absolutely.
Like you can actually communicate with the dog.
Prior to us wrapping this conversation up and to leave it on a light finish, how funny was that lady from WA that did the voiceover for you?
Oh, the best.
Hysterical.
Loved it.
I probably watched that about 25 times.
It was so funny.
I
She did
laughed
such
at-
a good job too. I went through her whole profile.
That was what was amazing. That was one of her best though.
Yeah,
That was definitely one of her best. Like the animation she put into it, she lip synced that perfectly.
Yeah. I'd love to know how long that took.
Her body language, her characterizations that she was doing through that entire performance was just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, Lauren's her name.
Lauren.
Yeah. It was incredible.
Great job, Lauren. Very, very funny.
Yeah, I was killing myself laughing the whole way through.
I saw your comment where you're going, I finally made it.
Someone's done a what do you call it of me? A impersonation.
Impersonation.
I'm there.
Yeah,
I've done
it was terrific. It was very clever.
All right, I'm putting an end to it.
Yeah, it's time.
That's it. Another episode. Canine Paradigm.
Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah, this will be the Christmas episode.
This is the Christmas episode.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah. I know we've made it dark, but it's important.
Yeah. No, it is.
There's plenty of times that you and I have wanted to talk about things and then we've skipped over it because we thought, it's going to be too hard. I think this is a good way to try and wrestle down the end of the year. It's been a trying year for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, like elections have happened. Friends have stopped talking to each other over who they voted for in the United States.
Yeah.
We've got a piece of shit that runs our country, and other countries are facing this. You know, like there's just people who sold their people. They've sold them into tyranny, and
Don't worry, the aliens are going to save us.
that's right. Exactly. Or they could be angels.
Or whatever it is. Yeah. The glowing orbs in the sky are going to save us. I really want to explain what I think it is so that in a month I can be like,
Go.
told you. No,
Do it.
no. I don't have time. We're
All
going
right,
to go
we'll do it on the
dogs.
circle jerk.
Yeah, we'll do it on the circle jerk.
Yeah.
All right, so next week's the circle jerk. We're going to get it together.
Might have happened by then.
Yeah, maybe I'll be like, and people be like, yeah, sure, Pat.
Yeah.
I have to get my wife on to be like, no, that's what he thought. He wouldn't shut up about it. It's all he talks about at home. Because it is. All right, that's it. Another episode, Canine Paradigm. As always, if you like what you hear, like, rate, share, subscribe. Do that through whatever subscription service you download us from, and then just go to another one. Do it. They don't check. You're allowed to do it. You can fucking write anything you want. Don't write bad stuff or write bad stuff, whatever. We're getting blown up in 2 weeks anyway. If you want to support the show, Patreon.
Yeah, do Patreon before we get salvation and we just turn into light portals and get beamed into.
We ascend.
And Seth Rogen and all those people get left on the planet to.
That's it. That's what
party it
happens
out.
at the end of This Is the End.
Yeah.
Right? That's such a good movie. I should watch that again. It's The Rapture.
And then they go to heaven and Boys to Men are playing. Is it Boys to Men or
I don't know, Backstreet Boys.
NSYNC or Backstreet
don't
Boys?
know.
Backstreet Boys.
They're all the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patreon. Give us a few bucks a month. $10 gets you a live stream. Did that today. Answered a bunch of
Hey,
questions.
it's Christmas time. Give us a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Should we? Yeah, give us a Christmas present.
Just throw some sugar at Daddy. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes.
Another way you could support us is Spring. There's links in the show notes. You can click on that and that will take you to a place where you can buy a t-shirt with our stupid faces on it.
Speaking
and
of
you can support
t-shirts,
us.
Joe Hodge gave me a Christmas t-shirt which says ho, 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 and it's Hodge, Hodge, Hodge.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Isn't it?
That's cool.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just sit here in my other Joe Hodge shirt.
You've got your Hodge shirt on as
Yeah.
we speak. And he spent
I spend a lot of time advertising Hodge Canine because the shirts are the most comfortable and best
beautiful shirts. Yeah, I've worn the fuck out of my other one, and it's the same thing. It's literally run out
I'm
of
very
ink.
lucky. Lots of people give me shirts. I appreciate it very,
Hats
very much.
and shirts. I get so much fucking hat.
People stop giving me hats because I don't wear them.
Yeah, I wear the hat because I'm bald.
I'm not covering this.
Yeah, you've got magnificent hair.
Yeah, I'm not
I've just got
covering
a shiny
that.
head. So, but I do get lots of hats off people.
Oh, there you
and
go.
I also buy hats. And Narelle is furious about my hats.
You got a hat collection.
I have got so many hats. But if you want to send me a hat of your business, I will wear it proudly for you.
Yeah. I mean, I like Joe a lot, but the reason I wear his shirt so much is because it's the most comfortable fucking shirt in the world.
And he sent me a lovely handwritten letter as well.
Yeah, he's a good guy like that.
basically talking about his appreciation of you and me.
Yeah, he's a wonderful man.
He is a great guy. Thank you, Joe.
All right, so get a shirt.
Aren't we fortunate, all the wonderful people that we have met, and a lot of them through this show?
Mate, I can't even begin to get into how appreciative I am of the people that reach out to us. Like something happened. I mean, I guess we've been doing some good episodes or something, but I've been getting numerous emails a day from people sort of blowing smoke up my ass, which makes me feel wonderful. Mate, I've already just talked about how validation should come from within, but it certainly feels nice when people are like, hey man, I see you. I appreciate what you're doing.
There's a few people I want to quickly shout out. I know we're trying to wrap this up, but there's a few people I do want to say some thank you to, and that is Monique Rana from
New Zealand.
From New Zealand. Lovely, kind person who's
Big supporter.
Not only a great supporter, but very supportive and just has a kind word to say about a lot of things. You know, there's a lot of people who maybe give you a little heart, but she'll give you a nice little message on the end of it as well. And Emily Emanuel from Victoria, she's just been doing her vet course. She spoke to me about it and I said, yeah, do it, man. Like go for gold. You've got great information. Get out there. There's been frequent times where I'm just having a week where I'm just thinking, oh, fuck this week. And she'll just send me a lovely message. It's like an unexpected gift at an unexpected time where I get a nice little message off her saying, hey, dude, thinking about you. I hope you're well.
The universe keeps it in balance.
The universe seems to keep it in balance. And there's some really amazing people out there. Chris Jebenak, he's the same sort of guy. There's so many of them. It's a difficult task to rattle them all off.
You've made a mistake.
I know. Yeah.
All right, moving on. If you want to get in touch with us, jump into the Facebook discussion group. In that place, you can communicate with, I don't know how many, there's more than 10,000 now. There's 12,000 or something people.
Yeah.
So get in there, be nice to everybody. But if you want to shoot us a message directly, you could email us. We are info@thecanineparadigm.com. Good luck, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.